This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome on drive this morning. A very overcast and luckily a cool morning here at Juma. We've come right out of the camp and there's some elephants, the edge of quarantine, which is always a good way to start. But welcome, my name's John T. We've got Gert on the camera and we're going to be taking you on drive this morning. And like I said, what a cool way to start the morning with these elephants right there. There's another 3 a little bit further off. They're all just having their marula breakfast. But please, as always, send in any questions and comments during the drive. It definitely makes it much better for us. Using the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. If you're under the age of 18, pop us a mail on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can register on the Wild website, head over to the channel page, and you can submit your questions there. Thanks, Lily Pan. Happy Friday indeed. Excellent. I don't know if that sound's coming through. There's a hyena calling behind us. It's probably walking on Vuyatela access. I'm just going to go forward a little bit. Ah, cool. FC is just telling me that you can hear it faintly. Well, we just try to get a view of this hyena. You're going to have a look at the weather. So we've just done a little turn. We're just going to see if we can see this hyena that was just... Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, there's 2. Okay, let me just try and get in front of them. So they're just walking out. They're probably less than 100 meters over there. It's so hard on the grass at the moment. They're just like submarining through the grass. I'm always fascinated to see what hyenas are going to get up to. It's always worth sort of trying to have a look and see what they're like. You see, now that one's running. Obviously their senses are so much better than ours. Obviously it's tricky to stick with them when they go through the block like that, but they are running towards something that they can hear or potentially even smell. You see how the one stopped? Yeah, Andy, if we got to see them actually complete a hunt, that would be legendary. But now they've stopped. They look like they're sniffing around there. Let's try and go a bit closer. Oh, here's a third one. Beautiful. FC is just telling me we're the only feed. That's fine. I know Tess had to change a tire. Let's see if we can figure out what these hyenas are up to. So we might see a bit of a greeting go on. Ooh, we don't hit that log. Oh no, don't go that way. So there's two in front of the car now. The third one's just gone behind the termite mound. So just an elephant trumpeted. Not necessarily always, but like now it's nice and cool. They've obviously finished whatever they were doing during the night. I can hear another hyena calling back in the direction where these ones came from. See how they're sniffing around? I'd love to be able to ask them, like, guys, what are you doing? At least they do. So they've got quite a range of different vocalizations that they make to express different emotions that they have. It's quite tricky for us to understand all of them, but generally that loud whoop, that's a contact communication. So either an advertisement of being in a territory or trying to link up with other members of the clan. Sometimes you'll hear if they found one or two lionesses on a very big kill, they would start calling for backup, essentially. But you see, like, even with their tails being held up as they are now, that's like a slight excitement. They put their tail up. But what's so weird is that one of the first hyenas that was here is the one that ran off back in the direction of the other one that was calling. Oh, I can see Tess there. Let's go. Thank you, Michael. I'd love to know. Then I wonder who that third one was that ran off. But the way they're sniffing around, this almost seems like this is hyena dynamics at play here. I thought you said veldskoen. Surely his name's not veldskoen. I wonder, the problem is if we go this way, it's very far. Let's go up and we'll go sort of around the long way because we're going to struggle to follow them through here. The sheepers, that was quite interesting. Very cool to see them. So we're just going to continue. We didn't really have plans for the morning, and we came out straight into some elephants which are still there. I'm sure Tess will go have a look at them. I saw her come out now on quarantine. She was wondering what we were doing, staring at the hyenas. Wow. Another elephant. This looks like a young male elephant. He could be part of that group that we saw in quarantine, just lagging behind. You can see how dark he is. He must have gone in the water maybe yesterday. His tusks are clean.
Good morning everybody. I am sitting with a herd of impalas while they're feeding all around a termite mound, and I'm actually on my way to Gari Dam. And what a lovely scene to have so many impalas that are grazing peacefully next to the car this morning. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari. Behind the camera is BK, and we are planning on bumbling around. We've got nice overcast weather. We've just changed the tire, so we're feeling very, very awake. And good old Wendy is back in order. So we're going to be checking Gari Dam, and then we're going to be heading down towards Twin Dams to see what else we can find for you. But I love the peaceful start of impalas in the mornings. This is definitely one of the biggest herds of impalas I've seen. I always find it fascinating when they feed on termite mounds and all around them, and it's a very good reason. It's the same reason that elephants do it, really. The termites are very good at recycling nutrients back into the soil, so those plants must taste a lot better. They are a lot better for the system. Very nutritious. But I can even see there's some hibiscus growing in between the plants there, so it's a pretty good place to be feeding early in the morning. And I'm sure these impalas had a fairly peaceful night, other than Ndebele and the crew this morning chasing them off of quarantine, I'm sure, which is why they're on their way down to the dam instead of relaxing up on quarantine where we normally find them early in the mornings. But we're not too far from there, so they haven't been too worried about those hyenas. None of them are looking particularly alert. They're all looking nice and relaxed. Every now and then one will lift its head just to make sure. And then they carry on feeding. Freddie, the black stripes on their ears act as a bit of a follow me sign. So if you have a look at things like leopards or lions, you'll see that they also have black markings on their ears and on their tails, very similar to impalas. And this is part of survival in the wild. With impalas in particular being the most populous food source, which means there's the most of them compared to predators, and they are a very popular food source, they have to have defense mechanisms for when something is chasing them. So if, for example, a leopard was to come along now and all of these impalas were to scatter, there's a group of maybe 8 together on the side of the road, there's maybe 100 on the other side of the road, they're all going to scatter in different directions. So the way that lambs can follow their mothers, and the way that different females can follow each other to make sure they don't split up, because your safety as an impala is in numbers, they would follow those stripes on the tail and the stripes and the black markings behind the ears and in front of the ears. That's what sticks out when you're looking at a sea of grass. The reddish color kind of blends in, but black sticks out very easily. And then there's also a white fringe, so you'll see the ears have black and white, and the tail has black and white. The white is underneath the tail. So these are your follow me signs, and this is really just so that they can make sure that they don't get separated. Because especially for something like wild dogs, which I'm hoping are going to come back at some point soon, with wild dogs, if all of these impalas split, any impala that's on its own is an easy target. So you've got to try and make sure that you stay with your safety in numbers. It's quite cute to see them all even feeding in the same direction. Look at that, they're all facing one way and walking one way. Very peaceful start. Doesn't feel like we changed the tire 5 minutes ago. We're a little hot and bothered, but the impalas look fine. Oh, goodness. Now, what I'm particularly enjoying at the moment... Hello, girl, can you smell us? I don't know if she's trying to smell the hyenas. What I enjoy at the moment is the little males getting their horns. Mandy, no, you won't find impalas interbreeding with other species. Most animals out here are pretty specific. The only exceptions are things like zebras. If you put Burchell's or plain zebras with mountain zebras, the Burchell zebras will outbreed the mountain zebras. They will interbreed between the two. Because they're so closely related, they're both in the same genus. There are no other antelopes here that are closely related to impalas that they would be close enough to be in the same genus and could interbreed. If, however, you were to go somewhere where there is a very close relative of an impala, you might find that there would be an interaction. But no, I've never seen or heard of impalas mating with other animals. Remember, all of the species that live together in an ecosystem have developed as separate species for a reason, for survival through evolution. And so even the impalas know with instinct that it wouldn't make sense to mate with a different species, because their species is going to survive by them mating with each other instead of by mating with other species. Oh, they got a fright. There's some more impalas coming down behind us. I think they got a bit of a fright. I'm particularly loving the little lamb that's on the termite mound with a little... Oh, let's just come down. It's got a yellow-billed oxpecker on its back, which in itself is very special, but it's been high up on the termite mound. Look at it. Jasmine, they do defend each other from predators, but remember, it'll be a different strategy to something like a buffalo. A buffalo is really big, it's bulky, it's got very big horns, male and female. And they can be tenacious enough to chase off a pride of lions. For example, if they manage to get one of the buffaloes. Oh my word, the lambs have got energy this morning. But impalas, they're already defending each other just by being together. So with so many eyes and ears and noses, it makes it very difficult for predators to sneak up on impalas. So that's the first defense mechanism, where they're helping each other, they're defending each other. That being said, I suppose they do defend each other in the sense that even when we were sitting with Blondie and Mohawk last night, there were some impalas that spotted Mohawk. And instead of running away, an impala's defense mechanism is to alarm call and then move closer. And if they all move together as a group, they're helping defend each other. It's not necessarily attacking the lion if it gets one of them, because then they would run away. But slightly different defense mechanism is making sure that the animals know that they're there and actually starting to intimidate the predator by coming closer, so that they can get a better idea, but also so that the predator gets the idea that, hang on, I've been seen and I've got no chance here. So it's not the conventional defense that you're thinking of, where buffaloes would go in and attack some lions, or an elephant would go and chase the lions away. The impalas have different strategies, but at the moment they're actually helping to defend each other. It doesn't look like it, but they are. So it's just a different defense. Male impalas do have very sharp horns, so I suppose if they needed to, they could defend themselves with that. I have heard of a few cases of impalas stabbing each other or stabbing other animals. And they do have very sharp hooves, so at the point where it's life or death, it will try and defend itself. It will kick with those hooves, trying to cut into the predator. If it has horns, it will try to stab the predator with the horns, but unfortunately it doesn't usually work. So the defense is safety in numbers. Jade, so do I, especially the ones up on the termite mound. That one's looking very precarious. It's as though it's seen something and wasn't very happy. But there's actually impalas on the other side. They're kind of just walking around the thickets. But yes, it is so lush and green. The grass is thick and long. And the impalas look extra beautiful in it. I'm really thrilled to see in the last few days we've seen probably 3 separate sightings now. Myself 2 and JP 1 with yellow-billed oxpeckers. How exciting is that, everybody? From local extinction to reintroducing and repopulating quickly. What a success story. I can hear a lilac-breasted roller somewhere. I wonder if it's hunting. Alright, our impalas are moving off. So I'm actually going to head down towards Gowrie Dam and just see what else we can find there. But it's a lovely start to the morning when it's so scenic with the termite mound, everybody playing and relaxing and scaring each other. Alright, let me see if I can find that lilac-breasted roller.
So we're just exploring a different area. We've come over onto Simbambili. I want to go back towards Simbambili Dam. Oh, there's quite a cool little bird up on this stump here. Is that in the gap there? Very, very cool little bird of prey. I don't know if anybody wants to throw out any suggestions before I blurt the name out. It's got some pretty distinguishing features. Is it like it's hard in this light, but got a small red eye, black on the shoulder. it weighs a little bit less now. I'll wait a little bit longer in case anybody wants to throw in a suggestion. It's a black-shouldered kite is the name of this bird. And a very, very cool bird of prey. They can like hover in one spot when they're flying, looking for prey. Small rodents, snakes. We're just enjoying a bit of time with this black-shouldered kite, and then we're going to continue. I want to go back towards Simbambili Dam. So I was there yesterday looking at some elephants, and then I got a message from one of the viewers asking about Shadulu's den site, which I had no idea was in that area. And then I chatted to Lauren last night, and then she showed me some of the communications that she'd had with the guides on this side, and so apparently there is a den site there, and there's to be no off-roading, but we are allowed to drive on the road and see if we get lucky. So that is what I'm doing. It is always, whenever there's a den site, you want to be sort of carry out the utmost caution and care, and that's what guys have done for years, and that's what leads to having sort of continued great leopard viewing. So we will keep up that tradition. And I must say it was pretty awesome, because yesterday we went down there and we had signal the whole way. Sometimes when we come on this part of the property we lose signal, so maybe something's changed. Maybe we've taken some signal from Pridelands. I actually don't even know how old these cubs are. I'm presuming if it's the first den, then they should be tiny. But I don't know if anybody who's watching has maybe got any insight, and you can let us know. I'd also love to catch up to Tlalamba and her cubs, see how they're doing. So we're going to link over to Pridelands, where JP wants to say good morning. Oh, that looks like a bit of Vanrenigen over there.
Good morning and welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. We decided to make our way towards Impala Plains this morning as it's quite windy. We were actually hoping to find a fair amount of plains game in the open area. That's quite often we they smell as well visibility here is a little bit hampered, and they prefer to come into the open so that they can spot potential threats. That we were specifically hoping to find here was zebra, impala, and possibly wildebeest. So my name is JP LaRue, and behind the camera we've got Darby. What we also have is a beautiful sunrise. I also notice that there's a fairly large frontal system that's moving straight towards us. It's quite a reprieve compared to yesterday's hot, warm, humid conditions, and having a lovely cold breeze blowing towards us this morning. Some of the things that we'll notice is that it might bring the rain a little bit later on, but it's also just interesting to watch how weather conditions and the cloud conditions are changing. And I just love clouds, as there are tiny little weather stations in the sky. And for me, they're almost more predictable about what is going to happen throughout the rest of the day than the weather report is itself. Some of the clouds we've noticed that was moving up against Drakensberg Mountain. It's already created lift in terms of creating orographic rain. We also see some cumulonimbus clouds that's starting to develop where the cold air is wedging in underneath the warm air from day and pushing it upward, creating instability, which also potentially might lead to some thunderstorms. In the meanwhile, let's sit and listen to the sounds of nature. There's some crickets, as well as a different number of birds that are calling, and a beautiful sunrise. Well, it's still nice and cool this morning, and there's some windy conditions that we have. There's a good chance for the activity period for the animals are going to be much longer this morning. And there's also good chances for lions to actually go and still be active and hunting in these conditions, as wind like this often plays into their favor when it comes to hunts. We're going to move on and go and see what we can go and find, but let's go and see what Tessa is up to.
We are similar on this side, JP. We don't have as much wind, but we are very overcast today. And I think we've got a decent chance for all the predators today. I'm hoping lions, but I'm also hoping wild dogs. Wishful thinking. So I actually drove past this particular tree last night, and I noticed that there is a Burchell starling nest. And I only noticed this because as I drove past the spotlight, I caught the Burchell starling briefly in passing, coming out of that slit in the tree. And I just thought it was quite special. We've been finding a lot of nests recently. There we go. Feeding the chicks at the moment. Now, it's not often we get to observe so many nests, but I think we've been pretty lucky this season with Lauren finding the oriole nest. There's a kingfisher nest at Gowrie Dam, the hornbill nest when we go to Twin Dams, and now also a Burchell starling nest. So it seems like we're getting a lot of different species in, but interestingly enough, most of them are hole nesters, and maybe that's why we've noticed them, because it looks quite obvious when you're driving past and you see a Burchell starling while it is putting its head into a hole in a tree. Now, they do feed on things in there as well, but the reason that I know it's a nest is because it's been back since yesterday, and today it's back at the same hole. This is also a really good space if we think about the diet. Insects, fruit, seeds. Franklin, yes. I would say the most successful in terms of not being predated those nests would be in the hollows of trees like this, because if you think about it, not many animals can fit into that gap. And if they do, it would be things like maybe small lizards or some snakes. But in that case, the birch-tailed starlings are quite tenacious. They would actually mob anything that comes close to the nest. But you can imagine having something lower down in a tree trunk in a hollow where they can just drop food in, and it's a small enough gap for mom to maybe get in to lay the eggs and come out once she's brooded them. It's much safer than having a cup nest up on a branch that everybody can possibly see but very easily get into. If they come across the nest, you just slide into the top of a cup, as opposed to trying to get down into a narrow gap within a tree trunk. And normally it's either just a natural cavity in the tree, or maybe something like an old nest from a woodpecker, or maybe a crested barbet. So they recycle nests, but they're constantly looking for new cavities as well. So ultimately you want the entrance to be narrower than maybe 5 centimeters, or just under 2 inches. That's how you want the entrance to be. And the nests are actually quite deep, so if you look where the starling is, in comparison to where the chicks might be, they would be very low down. It can be as much as sometimes 40 to 50 centimeters down into the tree. She's trying to go in. Goodness gracious, it must be quite something to try and get into that cavity, turn around and get out. Safari Kitty, I'm so happy you used the word iridescence. That makes my day. Absolutely, the iridescence on the starling is beautiful. I think a lot of people don't realize it's not called shiny. It's definitely iridescent. And I find it fascinating that iridescence, the sheen that you can see on the feathers, the metallic color, is different to each person that sees it. So where I'm sitting at the moment, I can see the starling as a predominantly green, actually, as opposed to blue. BK, what color can you see when you look at it?
I'll let you know once it comes.
Pardon?
I'll let you know once it comes.
You'll let you know. Okay.
Green and blue.
Green and blue, yeah. So the color of the bird is going to change depending on how the angles of the light cause it to reflect. Because of the structure of the feather, it's not actually colored that way. It's just the reflection of light that we're seeing. And because we're seeing it from different angles, we're going to see slightly different colors. So interestingly enough, I saw a great spotted cuckoo the other day. I had a wonderful sighting of a great spotted cuckoo on Chitwa. And it's a rather big bird compared to a birch-tailed starling, but what fascinates me is with the size of the entrances to these nests, less than 5 centimeters, a great spotted cuckoo can somehow get its eggs into a nest like that and parasitize them. I mean, that just blows my mind. How does the chick even get out of the hole? Because it's a bigger species. Very, very strange. Well, we're going to wait and see when this adult comes out. But it sounds like JP has found something very big. He's got an elephant. Let's head over and have a look.
Welcome back to Pridelands. We just found an elephant bull that's busy feeding, and this is pretty much what he's going to do for the rest of the day. And for an elephant, his day consists almost out of 20 to 21 hours of feeding to actually support such an incredibly large body. And on top of that, they've also got a fairly poor digestive system, which makes things a little bit more tricky for them, as they can only absorb some 40% of what they eat. The remainder of his day will be focused on resting as well as drinking, and sometimes a little bit of social interaction if he does manage to actually catch up with the breeding herd. I'm just going to roll a little bit forward and see if we can get a little bit of a better view of him. unfortunately going to have to start the vehicle. Sometimes the clutch is sufficient, but in this case not. There you go. What you'll also notice is that there's fairly little movement of the ears in a cold morning like this, compared to yesterday where it was blistering hot, and then we'd most likely be fanning these ears like crazy to actually support and to control their body temperature. Just like him, I'm just as happy that we're in for a cooler day today. So quite often when we do watch elephants and they are feeding, the first thing I always look for is if they're actually pretending to feed or if they're actually really feeding. And the reason why I do that is that will indicate if they're actually suspicious of what we are doing. Quite often a distrusting elephant will actually start pretending to eat and keep an eye on you to watch what you're really up to. We refer to that as mock feeding. When it does come to elephant bulls, we quite often do find that they will feed on their own. However, we also do find that younger bulls tend to form larger groups, and sometimes they're associated with very old bulls that also have stopped breeding. But these groups are very dynamic, and they tend to come and go out of those groups, especially when you do have individuals in that group which is old enough to go into must. They might start wandering off and look for females.
So I've stopped a little bit further south, next to the Mlawati drainage line, and what I'm wanting to do is just listen to the bird calls, because there does seem to be a lot of activity around here. You can see a few birds flitting. We're right next to the drainage line with tall trees, and it just seems like the perfect area for birding this morning. So let's just have a listen to the calls around us. You can hear a variety. I could even hear a woodpecker. If you listen carefully, you can hear it knocking. Now, this is the kind of place where I think I could actually sit all day. In the drainage line there, I'd park down in the middle of the riverbed and just have a listen, because there are so many birds. It's one of my favorites, a black-backed puffback. And it's just so beautiful to listen to the world coming past and wait for animals to come.
Welcome back with Jonty and Gert. We're just in this big, beautiful open plain here on Simbambili, enjoying some impala and zebra, and just enjoying the cool the cool weather today. It's a nice break from yesterday. And we just saw another vehicle. I actually didn't see which lodge they were from, but they obviously had the same plan as us to go check that area where they think Shadulu's keeping her cubs. And it seems like she returned to the den last night, and then the tracks were leading away from that area this morning, heading east. So they're following those tracks. I think where we saw them was very close to the sort of boundary of where we allowed to drive. So what the guys were thinking, normally if a leopard's tracks come straight in and straight back out on the same sort of path, she might have a kill somewhere. So we'll let them do the hard work, do all the tracking, and then let us know where she is. And hopefully it's in an area where we can go. But that's also good info to know, because obviously sometimes they'll go back the same sort of time. Wendy girls, the zebras, they breed throughout the year. So I haven't seen if any of these are, but it's quite possible that some of them may be pregnant. I thought I heard some snorting off in the distance. So yeah, it's obviously easier to tell when they're very, very heavily pregnant. Their stomach's the stomach's almost like bulging out on the sides, but sometimes that's also just from a lot of grass. Morning, Peter. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for that question. It's called a dazzle of zebra. It's quite a cool name. Waukesha craft, they are beautiful. Those stripes, they're almost mesmerizing. And these are called Birchall's or plain zebra. And they've got that shadow stripe in between the dark bold stripe. That's weird. I just saw something in the grass. Ah, it's still there. Yeah, I got so excited. It was just a flower blowing in the wind. I just saw this like white tip moving through the grass. Look at that. I don't know if anyone is watching. You see that flower in the back there? I just saw it briefly move. I thought it was a leopard's tail. But this grass blowing like this, there's a very cool movie called The Ghost in the Darkness. And the grass is like blowing like this in the wind. And there's lions moving through the grass. Very epic movie based on a true story in Savo, in Kenya. The guys were building a railway line and there were some lions that started snacking on the railway workers. But this scene with this grass like that, it just reminds me of that movie. Suzanne, it is amazing, hey, when you see them next to each other, that there's quite a size difference. I'm excited to see the end of this month. I'm hopefully going to see some Grevy's zebra, which are actually bigger than these. They're the biggest zebra. So we can go over 500 kilograms, 450 to 500 kilograms, which is quite a bit bigger. Hopper, you are on the money there. If you see a zebra that's mane is floppy and not erect, that's not a zebra that's too healthy. So it is a sign of their condition. If you were to see that, you would know that there's some sort of issue. I'm hoping the zebras are going to move out a bit. We've got this bush blocking us. There's one going on top of that termite mound. I'm just going to drive forward a little bit, because if it stands up, it'll look quite cool. There's one, so I hope it's going to come on to the top of the termite mound, but it's just standing there. Maybe that's the reason why I'm kicking the castle. Quinn, it's, I mean, not to us. Sort of between stallions, they can be very, very aggressive when they're fighting. Very protective against predators. If a mother, female zebra and a stallion will actually run in on predators that are trying to catch the young. Sometimes they do. I've seen a zebra, quite harsh, but a foal had been abandoned. Well, I say abandoned, its mother had been killed. And it was wandering around calling, and then it tried to sort of join another herd. And with that contact calling, you know, that's just attracting predators. And so the stallion, he actually killed the foal, which is quite an alarming thing to see. But I mean, the thought process behind it is that he doesn't want to, one, have this foal that's just advertising to predators that they must come and try catch it, and then put the rest of his herd in jeopardy. So they just sort of take it out. And then also part of the theory is that it's a foal from another male. But yeah, it was pretty grim. It's hard in the grass, but I've been looking to see if there are any foals in this herd, in this dazzle. Sounds like Tess has got a surprise. Let's go see what she's got up her sleeve.
I hope you find a foal, Jonty. You've had very good luck recently, although I think half of it has been Gerrit and BK, so hopefully you find a foal. I've just arrived at Twin Dams. I came down to see if we can find any tracks of our Avoca males. It looks like they have vacated the premises. They may have gone south, so I'll go and check Gowrie Main just now. But we've got a water monitor, and I'm wondering if this is the same one we had in the sighting last night. That was kind of swimming towards the lions and got a bit mobbed by the blacksmith lapwings. Looks as though it's trying to warm itself up. We've actually just started spitting with rain here, and so I'm sure that this water monitor is just trying to warm up from the warmth of the earth, the soil especially in that eroded section. It's going to be holding a little bit more heat than the water. So possibly just trying to warm the belly up a little bit. This is a fairly big water monitor, not as big as the rock monitors that we get, but a fairly big water monitor. And I think this is the resident one that we often see on the logs down here as well. Cami, water monitors can lay anywhere up to about 60 eggs at a time. I think, as far as I know, it's also dependent on age. The more experienced a water monitor is, the more eggs it can lay. Very similar to a chameleon. As they get older, their brood size increases. And they're actually buried usually in things like termite mounds, anywhere that it's nice and warm. And that's where they'll actually develop and hatch. So there's a bit of food available when they hatch. Especially with things like rock monitors, it's a little bit more, I want to say a little bit more perplexing. That's a good word. It's a little bit more perplexing than a water monitor, because with a rock monitor, the eggs can actually take up to a year. So the eggs will hatch, but the hatchlings will stay in a termite mound up to a year later when the soil is soft with the spring rains or the summer rains, and they can dig themselves out of the termite mound. Because remember, when they hatch, they'll be quite small. They'll stay in the termite mound for safety, and as they get bigger, they won't be able to come out of the hole, so they have to wait until it's rained enough that they can dig out a cavity from within that termite mound. It's very strange. Where are you going? You can see they move fairly slowly on land. They can move quickly if they need to, but because it's cold, it's going to be moving a little bit slower than usual today. I must be honest though, it was moving very quickly in the water last night. I'm going to stay here for a little bit longer and just see if anything else comes along. And just watch where our monitor lizard goes as well. And then from there, I'll head towards Gowrie Main.
Okay, so we're just driving down the slope towards Simbambili Dam. Go see if there's anything happening around the water. and eating grapes. The water level's quite high at the moment, so it's quite nice. You can do a bit of a water crossing pretend we're in Botswana. And it looks like there's a hippo.
Did you give it them? So our water monitor has moved a little bit further up the bank and has now promptly started resting again. I think it's going to be a fairly run-of-the-mill day for this water monitor. Just relaxing and soaking up as much heat as possible. So with the rain coming in at the moment, we've got quite a steady drizzle. It's not bad enough that we're covering up equipment or anything like that yet. But what it has done is it has dropped the temperature as much as we didn't think it would drop anymore. It has certainly dropped in temperature. And so I think this monitor lizard is going to have to try its best to stay warm today. It's going to be a bit of a struggle, so the body is going to be a lot slower because most reptiles, in fact I think all reptiles, are ectothermic, which means they have to get their warmth or their heat for their body from the environment. And on a day like today, it's not going to be getting any of it from the sun. It's windy, which means that's going to be cooling the body down. It's raining, it's going to be cooling down even more. And so the options are to try and soak it up from the earth, because the earth is going to hold more heat than the rest of the elements out here, if that makes sense. So it's quite a strange day for reptiles. You will see them out and about trying to warm up, especially on termite mounds. But this is what makes it a very, very good day for things like raptors to be out and about, especially brown snake eagles, battaliers, martial eagles, because animals are going to be out trying to warm up. You'll also see that it's slightly darker than usual. When we normally look at a water monitor, you'll be able to see the yellow streaking down the side of the face and onto the body. They look quite light in color, but on a cold day like this, it's made itself quite dark, just to try and absorb a little bit more light and heat as it's lying there. Because it was so hot last night, I was surprised to see it still in the dam quite late. But it makes sense how it's so different today, seeing it out of the water. James Richard, I'm glad you enjoy monitor lizards. So do I. I think they're quite fascinating and very good predators as well. You know, I think people forget about that. And how funny is it, James Richard? I still remember you asking me to find you a red-backed shrike. I think it was at the end of my December stint, and we got rained out, so we couldn't do our last day of drives at the end of the year. I still need to find you a red-backed shrike. I actually saw one yesterday and thought of you. It is quite a peaceful scene here. If you have a look at the rest of the dam, you'll see that there is almost nothing else around. There's the odd bird I'm seeing, every now and then a hornbill. But because the rain is picking up, the animals are going to start hiding away this morning. I have had an update on the lions. It sounds like some of the Nkuhumas, not all of them, are on Little Gowrie. So they are south of Gowrie, Main, not too far from Twin Dams. And so at least we know that they are around, and hopefully they'll be coming over to Djuma sometime soon again. So my plan from here, I'm actually going to head towards Gowrie, Main and do a little bit of a loop. Only yes, there would be interactions between water monitors and rock monitors. It's unfortunately one of those things, because they are closely related, you'll find there is quite a bit of interspecies competition. So between the two species, not intra-species, which there will be anyway, between two individuals of the same species as opposed to two different species, you will find them interacting if they are competing over food sources. That being said, I have actually been lucky enough once at Twin Dams to see a rock monitor and a water monitor almost side by side. And it was a coolish day, so I think they were just trying to warm up, and that was the main priority. But if it came to competing over a food source, yes, I'm sure they would interact with each other. I don't think that would be a problem. I don't think they'd kill each other, but they would certainly compete with each other. It's actually still lovely to hear that there are birds calling. So I've actually found a little friend on my car, everybody. I'm going to try and keep it still here. It is blowing a bit in the wind. How's that?
Yep.
I'm going to try and hold it still in the wind. Found a little friend on the car. It's a very brightly coloured little insect, I suppose you could call it. It's actually a tick. It's a type of bont tick, B-O-N-T, bont tick, and this is the male. We know that because of the brightly coloured exoskeleton or shell. And I want to turn it around so you can see a bit of the legs. I'm very impressed that this tick is managing to hold on to a tiny little scrap of grass there. There you can see a little bit of the underside, trying to keep it still. There you can see some of the legs as it's clinging onto the piece of grass. There we go, that'll help. So this is a very, very populous species of tick here. It's something that would also affect livestock, domestic animals. But this is one of the more common ones we see here. It's not the same as a rhino tick. A rhino tick has the very metallic little thing behind its head on the back of the body. But this is a bont tick, and this is one of the tick species that carries diseases. So every time we find ticks like this, we do get a little bit nervous about it. But it's pretty big. It's a pretty big tick species. The males in particular are a bit bigger than the females. The female would be slightly smaller and not as bright, much more red and less orangey gold. But I want to safely relocate that out of the car. I do not want tick bite fever again, thank you very much. I've had enough of that for this year. Throw it out. Yeah, and yes, ticks are very big. So you get different species. So a pepper tick looks like a freckle. I suppose almost about the size of that freckle there. If you look on my arm, they're very tiny. It looks like a freckle on your body, which means you don't notice it until you get a little bit of an itch, and then you look at it and you think, oh, it's just some dirt, and you wipe it off. But the tick is stuck in you. It's bitten into you. And you don't notice it's there until it's been there for a few days sometimes. But that's only the pepper tick. Most of our tick species are really big. They can be up to 0.5 centimeter, even bigger. And those are the ones that at least you get to see. And we often find them crawling on us after drive or on the equipment or somewhere in the vehicle. So we just have to get used to that idea and get used to pulling ticks off all the time. Can make for a very interesting experience when you've got to start checking for ticks. They like all the crevices. Sounds absolutely terrible, but their favorite places are in between your fingers, in between your toes, up your legs. Anywhere that you've got a crevice in your groin, it's terrible. But anyway, that's a tick story, and that's not something that I want to get very into at the moment, because I do not want tick bite fever again. It was not fun. When I arrived at the beginning of this stint, which is almost 3 weeks ago now, I still had tick bite fever. I'd actually only had it for about 4 days when I got here, so I was still in the heavy stages of severe fever, chills, body aches, neck stiffness, jaw stiffness, headaches like you can't believe. Oh no. And it lasted probably still my first week while I was here. I was struggling. But a little bit of medication and the problem goes away. Yeah, so let's hope there's no more tick bite fever for me in the very near future. I'm going to carry on to Gary Mains.
Yeah, tick bite fever is definitely not pleasant. That's why this time of year, this grass, if you walk through here, you're 100% going to get a tick on you. I remember when we were at Pinda, that's the most I ever got attacked by ticks. You almost permanently had like little scratches on your ankles from where you got nibbled by the little ticks. Yeah, if I pronounce that differently it would sound bad. So we checked the dam. There were some Egyptian geese at Simbambili Dam and 2 hippos, but unfortunately we lost signal when we were in there. That's why he cut away from us. So we're just doing one more loop. Well, we've left the dam. We're kind of doing one more loop to see if we get lucky with Shadulu, but unfortunately I think she's ended up going where we cannot drive. And unfortunately the radio this morning, I don't know if it's because of the weather, but it's very tricky to hear what people are saying. Which is also fine. We'll just go find our own things to look at.
Welcome back to Eco Training Providence. And no, I'm not proposing to Darby, but I do have a beautiful bouquet of flowers right over here, but we're going to deconstruct and talk about. And we're going to share some of the interesting cultural uses as well as beliefs associated with these plants. First one that I'm going to take out here, this is known as a wild sweet pea. That's also one of the plants that's believed often to be used as a fish poison. I just love them. They're almost like a little creeper that climbs onto other plants. And this time over here, there's quite a few of them around. I'm just going to put that one down there. Then we've got a little sedge right over here, which is quite a widespread little sedge. What I do find particularly interesting about this little sedge is that it does play an important role in the sand culture, and they used to often use this for making plugs for their water bottles, and those water bottles were made from ostrich eggs. And we also find that the roots of this plant used to be put inside the ostrich egg that acted as a purifying agent of the water and keeping it fresh for prolonged periods of time. Then we've also got a few little grasses in between. This one over here, if you do crush it into your fingers, this is known as a turpentine grass. It's got a very strong turpentine odor. And those terpenoids actually make it very unpalatable, and there's very few animals that will actually feed on this. And generally at the end of winter, these are still standing. And what you do find is that in Zulu culture, that they actually used to use this, and then they would actually make grain baskets out of this. And that will prevent that the rats will feed on the grain that's on the inside of there. And just an interesting little grass. This one is known as a herringbone. As you can see, it does look like the inside of a herring. For those of you that do like herrings, not my favorite breakfast. And then what else do we have over here? This one over here, I don't like that one particularly. It's got quite a lot of stings in it. This one is known as a hare's tail, and as you can see, this resembles the tail of a scrub hare or a Cape hare, which is a true hare species which we do find in South Africa. Over here, we only find scrub hare. However, right up in the northern parts, we do find quite often Cape hare over Kruger National Park, and then in the Western Cape we find them quite common. This one right over here, I've never been able to find a medicinal use for this. This one is known as a ruby gonidia, but it's a beautiful little flower, and there's often a host of interesting metallically colored beetles which will actually come and climb on these and feed on the pollen from this flower. Then right over here we've got a Natal red top. It's often creates a red little color to the seeds, and this is also quite often one of the grasses that grows in disturbed areas, and they act as pioneers to actually re-establish themselves in those areas. And actually what they do is they actually work like little plasters, fixing the soils that's been damaged and disturbed. There's another little grass which I have up here, just because I just love this little seeds in this grass, and they're called sawtooth love grass, and you can see that they look like tiny little swords shaped irregular shaped sawtooth margins on the edge of those little seeds, and then they look like a heart. And the genus to which this belongs is Eragrostis, and for those of you who are familiar with Latin, eros means also love. And right over here, we've got one that's known as a wild foxglove. I just do love the flowers. And it's often confused with the wild foxglove from Europe, although it's not related. That one is Digitalis purpura. And it does have large amounts of toxins which has been used in the past to poison people. However, there's no digitalis in our wild foxglove. But what they do use this for is the leaves often get used for alternative for spinach in times of drought, where it's cooked and eaten. And then parts of the plant is also used for treating painful menstruational cramps as well as abdominal cramps. That's just some of the uses I do know about that one. And then right over here, I'm just going to pull this one out. Not one of my favorites. This is an invasive plant species which has been brought in during the late 1890s, early 1900s, and that was brought in by the British, who used a large number of horses during the Anglo-Boer War, and they needed to feed these horses, and this came in with a horse fodder. It's also one of the reasons why it's known as a khaki boss, because of the khaki uniforms which the British soldiers used to wear during the Second Anglo-Boer War, compared to the First Anglo-Boer War, where they actually had red jackets and white puff helmets, which didn't work very well in Africa. These little seeds often get stuck onto your socks, and that's one of the ways that they actually can distribute themselves. They also often use these and actually making a spray. You can soak it in water, and then you can put that spray on your clothing or on yourself, and that helps apparently getting rid of ticks. One of my other favorites, I'm just going to pull out here. This one is wild basil. You can see there's a tiny little flower at the top, and then there's some of the dry seeds. It's quite closely related to the domesticated basil species. A very beautiful aroma, and I'm just going to crush some of this in my fingers because I just love the smell. And you can actually use this for cooking, or you can just burn it, and it actually creates a nice aroma around the fireplace. It was a little sedge from earlier. And then this one right over here, again, this is known as a snakebite bush, and not one of my favorites, but as they don't smell very nice. But yeah, they get used in African culture for treating snakebite, or believe that they can treat snakebite. And then the last one is just a beautiful little grass that is also forming part of a whole bouquet of flowers. And this is one of the free awns, and these also have tiny little spikelets over here. You can see they've got free little awns that are forming over there, and those also often get stuck into your socks, and they also distribute themselves by getting stuck onto the coats of animals like that. So there was a viewer question that I couldn't hear very clearly. If you don't mind to rephrase that question for me, and I'll see if I can answer it for you. Let's just reconstruct our whole bouquet, and while we're waiting for that question to come. Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm not sure what the viewer name was. I couldn't hear that, but I did hear the good morning, Kelly, and welcome to the show. There's actually a number of different things that can be used for soap, and one of the favorite ones is known as a devil's fawn. And that little devil's fawn, you can actually take the leaves and you can crush it and you can mix it with water, and that can then be used as a soap. But what they also use it for quite often is in rural areas when it comes to cows going into labor, that they will actually use it as a lubricant to allow that the calf comes out more easily during the process of giving birth. And that pretty much wraps up our whole little bouquet. Well, we're going to move on and go and see what else we can go and find for the morning. But let's go and say hello to John T.
Thank you, JP. We've just come back on. We're on WildEarth Access, but we've spotted a bird. We'll do a bit of a bird challenge for everyone. Must I go back? Oh no. Let me go back a little bit. I have to go through this gap here. Okay, so get your birding eyes ready. That's so funny. I could hear something in the bushes right next to us. It's actually a dwarf mongoose. I just heard the rustling. So I'm just going to the page in my book so I can show. I'll show you once we get if anybody wants to tell us what this is. I mean, you can see the big clue I'll give you is a woodpecker. But what I want you to tell me is which one. FC should be able to tell me. The FC is telling me they're going to let me know when the viewers start sending in their guesses. I mean, FC, you should know. Amazing. Actually, I don't know if I've got this thing in here. It's got like a diagram of the woodpecker's tongue and how it goes around their whole brain. Oh, FC coming in with a good, that's a good one. I'll give that to you. No, I don't have it here. I used to have a diagram, like little sheet that showed how the tongue like wraps around the head. It's almost like a massive big shock absorber. Can you imagine hitting your head like that against a tree all day? You're going to start speaking with a slur. Okay. Lyra, good try, but no cigar. I'll show you in the book and you'll see why. And there's the call, which helps. It's gone behind there. I'm just going to put the book up here. So there's one in the middle. So this is a cardinal woodpecker. If we go down to the bottom, then you'll see the adult male. So you can see, compared to the one we saw, this one doesn't have that big black eye stripe. I'm going to just turn the page. So now if you look at this one, that is indeed the one that was up there. That big black eye stripe is kind of the big giveaway. And it's also its size. Very, very cool. There's quite a few birds in here. There's a drongo in the tree. It's also a European roller, but it's really tough at the moment. The birds that are normally quite vibrant in color are looking a little bit drab in this light. Just packing all these books away. Well spotted, Gert. So we've kind of turned back on here with no real plan. We're just kind of cruising around trying to see if we can find any tracks of anything worth following. So we'll leave this bearded woodpecker here and carry on our little drive.
Some hippos. There are some other little birds around, our water thickneys, blacksmith lapwings, jacana here and there. But just an absolutely beautiful scene to be sitting and watching everything come and go. And the thing that really caught our attention is we know that there is big rain coming when we see swallows like this. So if you have a look on the branches, you can see quite a lot of them perched, but there's a lot of different swallows flying around and then coming back to land on the tree where the buffalo weaver nests are. And this is our best indication that there is some serious rain coming, and it's supposed to rain right through until Monday, I believe. But while we're here, you can hear the hippos coming out of the water. You can hear the buffalo weavers and a good few other birds. So let's just have a listen and watch as everything is coming and going at the dam this morning. I love being able to sit up on the dam wall and just listen and watch. I'm scanning just to see what else decides to come down. So if you hear any strange sounds, everybody, we've got our rain covers on. So you might see the occasional little piece of the rain cover blowing in front of the camera or some strange plasticky noises. That's just our rain covers. But we're sitting at Chitwa Dam. We are appreciating the view from here. There's some hippos popping in and out. You can hear the red-billed buffalo weavers. And we've just been watching to see what decides to come down to the dam. Because the wind is picking up, there's a lot of ripples on the water. It is quite cool. I've got my jacket on, BK's got his jacket on. And we are waiting to see what is going to happen with the weather. It is due to start raining this morning, and it's actually said, the forecast said from 7 o'clock. So that's pretty spot on. Cameron, there are hundreds of species of birds across South Africa. In Djuma, there are plenty as well. I would say the most predominant bird calls we get are these red-billed buffalo weavers, especially if we're sitting at the dams. There you can see them flitting in and out of the nests. The call you can hear in the background at the moment is water thickneys. We're often also hearing the different eagles, martial eagles, Warburg's eagle, Battaliers occasionally as well. Blacksmith lapwings are calling a lot of the time. What are you seeing, BK?
Water thickness.
Ah, the water thickney is perfect, thank you. Blacksmith lapwings we hear a lot. That's a water thickney you can hear in the background again, but a different call. Also things like white-browed scrub robins and blue waxbills and weavers, all the different weavers. There's a blacksmith lapwing that's just landed. So it really depends on what family you're wanting to look for. You can find anything from big to small, and it'll be calling here at Djuma. One of my favorites is a black-crowned chagra or a violet-backed starling. There really are a variety of different calls. Egyptian geese always calling, white-faced whistling ducks. So there's a mix between water species, wading species, terrestrial species, arboreal species. It really just... There's so many, including all the raptors and the owls. But we are going to do a bird call challenge today, since we didn't do a buffalo weaver landing in the grass, very possibly looking for sticks. Since we didn't do one yesterday, I was on dam cam yesterday morning, and it was so action-packed yesterday afternoon, there just wasn't a moment. So we are going to do one this morning, and I'll maybe do it from the other side of Chitwa Dam, while we can go and have a look at a hippo that's half out of the water. But it really is a lovely morning. The cool weather means that the hippos are more happy to come out as well. Oh, speaking of big animals like these hippos, it sounds like JP has got a big surprise. Let's head over and see what he's got.
Welcome back to Pridelands. We just located on a tower of giraffe. Some people also refer to them as a journey. I like both of the collective names. However, when it does come to the animal behavior side of things, we generally refer to them as a temporary association, as if the relationship between these animals don't last for very long. We even find between males and females there's absolutely no relationship other than mating with them and then moving off. The only prolonged relationship that we ever find in giraffe society is that between a female and her young. And occasionally the oxpeckers would come to visit them as well. If you were wondering what the oxpecker was doing over there, I just had a quick look to see if there's anything to eat, and what he was looking for is ticks specifically. And at the moment we've noticed that some of these giraffe are loaded with ticks, especially between the hind legs and the front legs, where it's very difficult to get rid of ticks. Sometimes you'll even watch when they do decide to have a quick toilet break and may lift their tail to defecate. You'll see those oxpeckers popping in underneath there to get to those large gorge ticks that is hiding underneath the tail. And the oxpeckers also love eating both earwax as well as the scabs of animals at times. But coming back to our giraffes, so far the three that we did see over here, it seems to be all females. However, you can sometimes confuse young males with females, and the reason is that they also have little paintbrush-like tips to the horns. We refer to those little horn-like structures as ossicones. For simple purposes, I'm just going to call them horns. And if it's a male, you'll notice that they all got bald spots on the mature males as in that case. In general, we also find that females tend to be thinner-necked, as well as that they tend to be slightly smaller and shorter. We also generally find that they're lighter in color compared to males as well. One of the benefits of males being taller and females being slightly shorter is that you don't directly compete with one another when it does come to feeding. And when we do notice from feeding, you'll notice how they use their tongue to strip off the leaves off that tree. And the tree that they're actually feeding on is known as a torchwood or a green thorn, and they've got incredibly large spines which can create quite a lot of damage. And you can see how that narrow muzzle of theirs works perfectly to get into that bush, and then the tongue works very perfectly to strip off those leaves. And then they've also got a very thick leathery lip to protect them against thorns and spines. And lastly, beautiful long eyelashes to protect the eyes against these defensive structures. There's another little mechanism that they have in their favor, and that's a type of very specialized type of saliva that's on the tongue, which just deflects any thorn or spine off the tongue and prevent that it stabs into the tip of the tongue. If you've ever wondered how long the tongue is, it's actually some 45 centimeters in length. You'll probably see that these giraffe will all start moving off in different directions very soon. And generally when the food has been depleted, all the trees have started pushing up their tannin levels in this area and is no longer palatable. That's the reason which pushes them off to go and feed somewhere else. You'll also notice that they are definitely going to move into the direction of a wind to slow down the process of tannins being released, but also so that they can smell potential predators while feeding. Good morning, Sarah P, and welcome to the show. And to answer your questions, is how does giraffe communicate? Most of their communication is by a form of visual communication, and they've actually got a very limited amount of vocalizations which they do perform. However, they do vocalize, unlike many books which will tell you that they are mute, which is incorrect. And a few days ago, we actually didn't listen so carefully to what they were telling us, and they were bellowing and snorting, and we were going into a live segment, and then I forgot about them bellowing and snorting the whole time behind us. And half an hour or so later, there was actually a leopard that popped out, and that's generally for distress if there's a predator around. Other than that, all of it is based on visual communication, and they can see pretty well. They can believe that they can maintain contact with a calf over a distance of 3 kilometers by sight, and that they can spot lions up to distances of 3 kilometers. If we do also look at giraffe in terms of their close relatives, there's an animal that we find in the West African forest, which is known as okapi, which is very closely related to them. And the okapi, on the other hand, because it lives in thick areas where you can't see in the forest, they're actually on the opposite end of communicating with more vocalizations compared to visual communication, unlike the giraffe that lives in more open areas. Well, we're going to spend a little bit more time with our giraffe and see what they get up to. But for the moment, let's go and see what John here has.
So we're just enjoying Juma roadblock. This young elephant bull's just taking his time, cruising down the road. He's dropped off some deposits. That's so cool, eh? I'm busy reading a book at the moment, which is talking about like sort of when the first Europeans arrived around Cape Town. Their eyes must have popped out of their heads when they started walking around and seeing elephants and rhino and hippo. It must have been quite a sight. I'm going to go forward. I want to stay with this guy a little bit. I would like to see his face more than his bum. So I'll see if there's a point where we can go around him. They're such massive beasts. What's quite cool, if while we're watching him walk on the road, as he puts each foot down, you can almost see how it like expands. It's like a big shock absorber, taking in all that weight. A very, very clever foot design. If you had to look at like a cross section of their foot, they're basically standing on their tippy toes, and then that gap behind what we would call the heel is full of cartilage, tissue, and that just helps absorb all that weight. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can get another view. I think there might be a bit of water here. Somewhere here there's a walla, but he just turned like a direct turn. I wonder if he smelt anything at this marula tree. It's amazing how good their smell is. He was walking like in a dead straight line, and he just veered off 90 degrees to this marula tree. I'm just looping around so we can look at his face. Oh, look how he's rocking the tree. Oh, that's so cool. He just pushed against the tree to push out some more marulas. I'm just going to let you enjoy this little scene with this big guy in silence.
We are actually witnessing quite a special moment here at Chitwa Dam. And you'll see this female hippo. She's quite far out of the water, very close to the bank in the shallow parts, surrounded by a bit of vegetation. If you look a little bit to the left, you will see there are two hippos that are coming a little bit closer. They have not pushed their luck too much yet, but they are getting closer and they are watching her because she's been in distress. But what we have just seen was very strange behavior, and so we sat and watched for a while. It looked almost as though she was kind of hopping on hot ash from the floor. She kept lifting her back feet and kind of twisting from side to side a bit. And we're not 100% sure which of these two scenarios it is. The one is that she's got a very tiny newborn calf that is suckling underwater, because that's what they do, they suckle underwater. And two, she's just given birth to this calf and now it's suckling underwater. And I have a sneaking suspicion that that is the option, because we could see something in the water behind her, but it wasn't all the way out. And now there's a calf hidden behind her that is absolutely tiny. It's still full of wrinkles on its face. And I'm hoping you get to see it very soon, but I don't think I've ever seen such a fresh hippo calf. And so she's off to the side to protect the calf, so it's not having to tread through deep water, but also because it's cold today, it helps her keep the calf warm and out of the water when necessary. But she needed some cover to have a bit of a private moment, and so she hasn't gone back to the pod yet. There you can see she's got strange behavior happening again. I'm not sure if that's just discomfort at the calf suckling, maybe pinching her, because the calf will squeeze her teat between its tongue and its palate, so it'll squeeze quite hard. It can be a bit uncomfortable, I'm sure. But I'm not sure if it's that or if she's still just going through the motions. Now this is normally the kind of environment where a hippo would give birth, very close to the edge of the water where it's shallow. Susan, a hippo calf when it's just born will start off being underwater for about 30 seconds at a time. Over time, it'll build that up to around 2.5 minutes at an average, and then when it becomes an adult, it can hold its breath for 5 to 6 minutes. But it's a very short space when they are calves. It's around 30 seconds or so at an average. I'm really hoping you get to see this calf. It is absolutely tiny. Oh, come on, Mama Hippo. Nancy, yes, we've had very good luck with the hippos and their calves here at Chitwa Dam, from Rolo all the way through to the rest of them. Oh, there's the calf, there's the calf. It's just bobbed down into the water again. You can see it's kind of still getting used to coming up to the top. It just gets its nose out, gasps for air, and then it sinks again. But you can see oh, there it is. Hello, baby. Are you learning to swim? Look at the size of that thing. It is absolutely tiny, and that's why she's being so protective close to the edge of the dam. I think she's trying to get it to get onto her back. I think it's getting tired. Oh, that thing is tiny. That is officially the youngest hippo calf I have ever seen. Lolly, the other two look like they might be females as well, or maybe slightly even younger than her. I don't think they're wanting to attack. I think they're just curious because she'll be emitting pheromones and hormones. They'll be picking up on that. She's a bit distressed, which we can tell from her movements. And so they'll be picking up on that as well. And because they're a harem system, oh baby, because they're a harem, the females tend to stick together. So you might find they're just being curious. In fact, I can see a calf with one of the ones on the left, but it just keeps bobbing up every now and then. It's quite a bit older than this little thing though. This one is absolutely tiny. They've come to the baby shower, maybe that's what they're doing. Come to meet the new arrival. Oh, it is so little. Isn't it amazing how something that has just been born already has the instinct to be able to close its ears, close its nostrils, go under the water and not drown while drinking milk underwater? It's just mind-blowing. The female's definitely a lot calmer now than when we first got here. She was jumping around, and I'm wondering if those weren't contractions, because the first time I saw her turn, I saw something turning with her, and it looked like it was a calf that was about halfway out. And so we sat and watched, and she just wasn't really letting us see. And then the next thing, this little head popped up next to her, and then she relaxed quite a lot. Goodness gracious, what a moment. You can see she is very protective. She's putting the calf between the bank and the dam, with her in between. Patterson, the calf should be able to walk pretty quickly, so because they're born in the water, the immediate instinct is to start moving the legs to bounce up to the surface. Normally it's fairly shallow so that the calf doesn't have to struggle too much, but it should be able to get out of the water pretty easily and walk. The advantage of being born in the water and being an animal that is dependent on water like a hippo is that your balance is already probably pretty good. She is so protective, it's actually amazing to see. She's put herself in between the other hippos and the calf. Lisa, if you're looking at different weights of the hippo calf, it's actually dependent on the area that you're in, because hippos can have slightly varying weights. So a male, for example, is a lot bigger, on average 2 to 3 tons. A female maybe 1.2 to 1.4. But usually a hippo calf would weigh anywhere from about 100 pounds to maybe 110 pounds. So in kilograms, if you're looking at that, it's about 50 kilograms. So about half the size of an elephant calf. But again, it can vary. In kilograms, it can vary between 25 to 50 kilograms. So imagine being half of that size if it's maybe a particularly young female or particularly small female. If it's an area where the hippos are a little bit smaller because there aren't as many resources, it can vary. But what an incredible thing to be witnessing. It's a very intimate moment that we're watching. I'm hoping that she brings this calf out a little bit more. Dr. Rocky Balboa, I'm very happy that you love hippos. So do I. I think that they are pretty amazing creatures. I think she's under the water looking for it or something at the moment. I'd love to have a camera underwater to see what they're doing. Hippos are very special creatures. She almost looks like she's lying a bit on her side. If you have a look at her body, you can see the line of her spine is just above the water's edge and her body is curved up to the side. I think she's busy encouraging it to suckle at the moment. And that would make the most sense. If she's lying on her side, it gives the calf some easy access to the milk without being in too deep water. And then she's also using her body as a protective barrier. Wow. What a moment. Yeah, she is looking much more relaxed than she was. Immediate sense of relief, I think, once the calf comes out. Okay, I'm definitely spending a bit more time here just to see if we get another glimpse of that little calf. It is so tiny. I'm very happy I got to share that with you.
Okay, we're busy just trawling along the boundary here, checking if there's any tracks coming in, maybe of Tavangumi or some more lions, but no lucky yet. There's some tracks of elephants. You'd think with this nice cool weather a lot of the predators might be moving around a bit more, but we've still got to find them. This is that sort of time in the morning with, if I'd have guests, we'd be stopping and having a hot chocolate and a little leg stretch. It's amazing how often those little stops after that you sort of like hit a bit of good luck.
We've repositioned a little bit here at Chitwa Dam, and we're having much better views of the calf now, because we've come to the side where she had been creating a barrier with her body towards the other hippos. We got a little bit of a gap. There's baby. Cute. And she seems to be trying to nudge it. She's been nudging it with her nose, trying to get it to come up for water and maybe climb onto her back. But she is a very protective mama. She's being an excellent mama hippo right now. And the baby, you can see, is just trying to tread water and bounce up and down. Oh, cute. It is so tiny. Oh, sweet. Oh, look how she's running after it. No, wait, don't go that way. Yeah, she actually stopped it. It's behind her again. So you're still a little bit young to go out into the open waters. Let's just calm down. Let's stick to the shallows where it's safe. I literally think we got here as the calf was about halfway out from what I could see. And that's what I think was happening. I'm 99% sure. Tammy, yes, she will take the calf with her when she leaves the water to feed at night. Hippo calves are very susceptible to heat loss. And so it would not be able to stay in the water overnight. It would be way too cold and it would probably get a bit of hypothermia. So what she has to do is keep it on her back during the day so that it's out of the water for quite a bit of time. And then when she gets out to feed, the hippo calf will come with her so that it's not cold and alone and unprotected in the dam. Oh, that is such a sweet moment. It's just kind of clinging to her there behind her head. I think it's trying to get onto her back, but it keeps sliding off. You can see she's still creating that barrier to the other hippos. Got to take a bit of a run up and a push off the floor. I think it's just come up covered in plants. Yvette, it's most likely just because this is the more sensitive parts of the body in terms of skin. So I don't know if you knew this, but the thinnest section of skin, even on a human, is the section under your eyes where we tend to get bags. That's the thinnest piece of skin on your body. It's similar for hippos. The lining of the ears and of the eyes will be very thin, and so it doesn't have as much pigmentation. At the same time, if they are spending their time with just their heads out of the water, it makes more sense ecologically and evolutionary scale terms. It makes more sense to have pink there instead of a very dark color that will easily attract sunburn. Oh my cuteness. But you can see the baby hippo is a lot darker than mum. It's still getting used to life at the moment. She might bring it out. She's walking towards the rest of the family, but I think she wants to keep it safe closer to the bank and shallower water. All the oxpeckers is probably a bit overwhelming for that calf. It's never seen oxpeckers before. Must be very tough as a hippo mom to be aware of where your calf is, that it's not under your feet when you're walking. Oh, it's so cute when it comes up under the greenery. Flo, it must be baby fever month. February, the month of love, and all these calves are coming out. We have been very lucky. Very, very lucky. Yesterday morning and this morning, all of the newborns. So she's actually giving the other hippos a bit of a warning. Oh my goodness. They're welcoming the baby to the family, clearly. This is so special to watch. You can just see the head popping up every now and then. This is pretty normal, you know, for a female to isolate herself completely from the rest of the pod. It's a very special moment. Come on, little one. You'll probably find it's quite a rude awakening for a little calf. Imagine being nice and warm inside of mum's belly for 8 months, and then a rude awakening into cold dam water on a cold day. The hippo's going to be losing heat pretty quickly. I'm sure it wants to climb onto her back and stay warm. So remember, it's also pretty important where this hippo is. She doesn't want the other hippos coming closer at this point, not because it's possibly dangerous, but because she needs that time to bond with her calf, so her calf and her have an imprint on each other. They know who the other one is very clearly and can't get confused. Katie, I agree, this is where we belong. Babies in nature. It is the best. Excuse me. Oh, come on, give it a try. So this is what we're witnessing at the moment is one of the strongest bonds between mother and youngster in the animal kingdom. I don't know if you knew that. But hippos have a ridiculously strong bond with their calves, considering that they're, known as aggressive and the most potentially aggressive animal out here and fairly isolated. Hippos actually have one of the strongest bonds with their calves out of all of the animals, and it lasts a very long time. This little one might stay with mom for 8 years before it leaves, if it leaves. It is absolutely magical. Come on, little one, you can do it. I love the way every time it comes up to the mother, it just nuzzles her slowly with its nose. And this is a combination of things. It's having that physical contact, which is allowing bonding time, but it's also allowing the calf to sniff the mother, get her scent, get her feel. And this is how the bonding process starts. It starts almost immediately after birth. And this might last, this period where she's off on her own, might last 10 days, 14 days, where she won't allow the other hippos closer than what they are, just to make sure that that bond is set in stone. Nobody else can change the imprint. Oh. It's doing really well considering how old it is, everybody. Oh, those little flicking ears make my day. I can only imagine that everybody is loving what we are seeing at the moment. I know I cannot take my eyes off of her. It really is very special. She's actually turned to face because one of the other cows and calves is coming close. It's a slightly older calf, maybe a month old. They've started coming closer. So she's turned to face them directly to make sure that she's in between her calf and the other hippos. And that she can push forwards if she needs to get the mother and calf away. How cute will it be if we have an interaction between two hippo calves? I don't know if it's the best idea, but it would be quite sweet to see how it went down. You can see that calf is quite a bit bigger than her calf. Just from looking at the shape of the head even, it doesn't have all of those little wrinkles that her calf does. Her calf has just come up. You can see she straight away turned and started pushing it backwards. Don't go towards the other hippos. There, she's using her body as a barrier. She's trying to intimidate them. She's adamant that calf is not going anywhere close to these hippos. I feel like the other hippo calf is double this one's size at least. She's actually showing very aggressive behavior. She's not opening her mouth, but you can see she's almost giving a bit of a mock charge to the front. She raises her front half up out of the water, straight towards the other hippo, and then she dips back again. Oh, I can hear elephants. Somewhere in the drainage line. Maybe Maribs is chasing them again. Oh, this is so special. Let's just watch for a little bit and see what happens, because this other female hasn't moved. She hasn't gone any further away. Oh, was that a fish? I think that was a fish. Maybe it got a fright from the hippo calf. What strange things we are seeing. The directors are just confirming for me that it was definitely a fish. I don't have a monitor, so I can't see. It just looked like a fish. Wow. Come on, little one, you can do it. Here we go. Oh, it's trying so hard. Oh, she's getting angry. We're definitely going to be sticking around here for a while still, just to see what this little new calf gets up to, and hopefully it gets onto Mom's back.
Welcome back to Pridelands. At the moment we are looking at a russet bushualo, which is one of the members of a Combretum family. And at the same time we're also listening to the call of a crested barbet in the background. These russet bushwallows, they are actually one of the practically usable trees out here. Incredibly strong, hard wood. And we also find that these russet little seed pods can be used for making a tea. However, it's said that you have to remove the seed from the inside, otherwise it might be potentially toxic. If we go also look at the name bushwallow, it actually means creeping. And for the majority of the large common species which we see, they all form trees. But there's a number of creeping species which we find out here as well. And one of them is a knobbly combretum. Which we also interesting about this group of plants is that they actually can raise their tannin levels when they are being browsed. And in response to that, they will also warn other members of the same species that they are being browsed on by a potential threat, such as an elephant or a giraffe or kudu in that case. And then that simply will force the animals to move off, as tannin actually restricts your ability to digest your food. We're going to do a short little silent segment and just listen to our crescent barbet in the background. If you ever wondered how long they can call, they can literally call anywhere between 20 seconds and up to as long as 5 minutes. Unfortunately, our barbet has now gone quiet. One of the things that I do also find particularly interesting about the call is that it's often performed as a duet between males and females, which acts as a strengthening in the terms of the pair bond.
I'm just crunching away on some raw nuts. We're sitting at the Buffelshoek Dam. There was a single hippo that's potentially going to pop up there. Hello. But we don't want this hippo to try and compete with the other hippo sighting that we had. So we're actually going to carry on. We're going through the area where Tlalamba likes to hang out. Let's see if we can get a bit of luck with her. Just that sighting that Tess is having sounds right out of the top drawer. This weather is such a relief. I woke up at about 3 o'clock this morning and it was still cooking, but now it's actually quite pleasant. We just heard a bird calling now at the dam and I'm struggling to identify it. Alex, 50-50. Those are the chances, yes or no. Yeah, in this part they're not so frequent to see cheetah. They are in the Sabi Sands. We used to see in the southern part of Singita is a bit more open, and actually often where there was a bit less lion and leopard activity. And in the eastern parts of Mala Mala we used to have really good cheetah viewing. But saying that, I've even seen cheetah in the Sand River. And along the Sand River, that's like prime leopard and lion territory. There's also lots of hyenas. But you never know. We are in the bush here, so sort of anything is possible. I've either become JP or I'm getting the wrong words in my ear. No problem. I'll have to go and stand next to... Oh, that's cool. This little bird. If you can see, did you see that drongo needs a hiding? Did it come on the road? This will be quite a cool one to do a little bird ID challenge. You see it on the... Oh no, that's a different one completely. If you look further down the road, there's one on the ground there. So that's a different one. That's not the one we first saw. But look at this one. We've got young Eckhart with us. He's learning the ropes from Gert. He's also a budding birder. We're going to try and identify this one. So I'm just turning the radio down. So this bird, you see, it's got some pretty radical distinguishing features. No. That tail is so cool. How it's just on the edge of the grass there. I'm hoping it's going to come back out. And some of the colors on that bird as well, on the chest. Is it raining? Oh, when you see it from here, it almost just looks like a snake. Let me try creep the car forward a little bit. Are you looking on your app there? Annabelle, you are correct, but to get, that's the one I was looking for earlier. To get double chocolate brownie points, you've got to tell me which paradise wider. And then this was the first little one we spotted. So it's a double whammy. Shreyas K, yes, long-tailed paradise wider. That is indeed what the bird was with the long tail. And what about this little black? What a cheeky bird. Did anybody get a look at this little one? Let's see if it pops out again. It landed just in the grass here. But I mean, that's going to be almost... Okay, it's landed just in front of us on that little stick there. I'll try to get a picture in the book to show you. So this one, you got to look carefully at the sort of the color of the beak. Oh no, man. So I didn't even look there. But it would be one of... What I wanted to get you to look at was the color of the beak and the color of the legs. Whether it was a dusky indigo bird or purple or village. So I didn't see I must say, I looked briefly, it didn't have the red. I think it was probably a dusky. Did you see?
I don't see the legs. It's definitely one of the...
Did anybody see its legs? Anyway, still very cool to see. Yeah, that long-tailed paradise wider, that was epic. Oh, there it is again. Okay, let's look with binoculars. Yeah, those look like they could have a slight pinkish tinge. Did it just go again? No, I think there definitely was a slightly pinkish tinge there. Just wanted to sit still for more than a split second. Is that it up top there? Sorry, Gert, I'm making you... No, I think it's a dusky. That definitely was the whiter legs, so the dusky indigo bird. Very cool. Sometimes it can be so tricky if you've got a car full of people who are interested in looking at birds. One, you've got to get everyone to see the bird, the same one, and then agree on the identifying features. Oh, this is such a beautiful spot. Perfect. We're just going to enjoy some of this view and see if any birds come and join us in this little spot here. Oh, I thought I saw an owlet, but it is not. Just putting a cover on my books. We just stopped in this drainage line, just scanning around, seeing if there's any cool little birds, and just enjoying the sort of the beauty of this little area that we're sitting in.
I have left Chitwa Dam with the lovely mom and baby still bonding just on that little shallow section on the right. It's actually down on the southeastern side. The other hippos were still hanging around, but mom wasn't letting them get any closer. And so it was just a case of mom and baby bonding. The calf still did not manage to get onto the mom's back. And we decided, alright, let's let them have some peace and quiet. Important bonding time for the two of them. Hello, big elephant bull. Wowza. Hi. And you're in must. Hello. So yes, we decided to leave them for a bit and just let them bond a bit more. Hey, big boy. So we actually chose to come this way because we heard those elephants trumpeting a few times at the dam. And so what we wanted to do is come and check why. But now I understand, maybe it would have been an elephant bull in must that's been chasing the herd around. him and his friend, the drongo, that seems to be sitting with him. Now, I wish I could convey this smell to you, everybody, but unfortunately, technology is not at that level yet. But he smells particularly spicy for an elephant bull. He must. You can actually hear him chewing. Now, he's got pretty impressive tusks. They're not massive in length, but have a look at the width. Okay, it will happen occasionally that females are chased out of the herd or leave the herd. It's not something that is very common, but what you do find is if a herd is getting too big and resources are limited, you might find the herd will split into different matriarchs. They'll move off and they'll still meet up again at different points in life and possibly come together again when the resources are good. Sorry, you can hear some noises. We're just covering up some equipment again. It started raining. But yes, it's much more likely that the males are moved off. A female can choose to leave at any point, but elephants have very strong social bonds, so it's unlikely that a female would choose to leave unless, for example, a herd was struggling with resources and they decided to split, and then different little sub-families within the elephant family will move. Goodness gracious, you had so much mud in that mouthful. Can I move it back for you, BK? Oh, Wendy. There we go. Lovely. Oh, I can see into his ear canal now from this angle. Hey, big boy. He's actually chewing on, it looks like, some of the roots. He's managed to dig them out. That's why there was so much soil. And this is important for him because it'll be high in water content. You can hear the drongo calling. Wow, look at that vein network behind his ear. Jason, no. Elephants will ring bark any tree because any tree species has the same basic makeup. The cambium layer will be just underneath the bark. Or just, it's almost, I want to say a mid-layer, but it's not quite a mid-layer. But essentially, they need the bark of the tree to get to the cambium layer. And so any tree that they think is big enough and they can smell the moisture in the tree, they will ring bark it. He is playing quite hard to get with his face this morning. Quite an awkward moment if we had an elephant bull and must and Wendy wouldn't start and he decided it was time to come closer. You could see he's been... Oh, the smell just gets stronger and stronger, folks. There we go. Hello, big boy. Oh, it really does get stronger. Myself and BK are blocking our noses. He is particularly smelly for a male elephant in must. He smells less pleasant, musty, spicy, and more almost dirty. That's what he smells like. But I'm sure he's going to be taking advantage of this weather today. He might go down to the dam a bit later, but the nice cool weather means he's not having to hide in the shade. He can move freely and just keep feeding. Oh, he's heard something. Maybe he knows we're talking about him. So the section that we're seeing at the moment with him feeding, just try and imagine. I know that a lot of people sometimes do those challenges where you try and lay out all the food that you eat in the day. You put another one of those on the table to see how much food you've eaten in a day or a week, see how it builds up. Imagine having to do that for an elephant bull of this size. He's eating a variety of different things. He's eating roots, flowers, leaves, bark, branches, grasses, pretty much anything that he can get his teeth into at the moment. But imagine putting out all of the food that he eats in a day on a table. I think the table would collapse. We are seeing a micro fraction of the food he will eat for the day, because he'll have to eat sometimes in excess of 250, 300 kilograms worth of food in a day. That's quite a lot, though. Oh, windy. Back. He is trying his best to hide behind the long grass, though. Debbie, it's quite interesting. Females will not usually respond very well to a bull in must. And that's because any female that's coming into estrus, whether it's a female that has never mated or had calves before, or whether it's an experienced female with calves, either way, a big bull in must is incredibly strong and the temper is short. So what this means is if you have got a calf, you could very easily injure the calf, pushing it out of the way to get access to the female. I wonder if he's going to cross the road. He might. But even if you don't have a calf, if it's your first time mating, a female at around 8 years old will be sexually mature. He's pulling down a tree. That was casual. I just saw the tree going. Wow. He's just eating the whole thing. I'm not sure if we'll even get that. It's such a tiny gap. So he's broken quite a big branch off of a tree there. So imagine strength like that when you're an 8-year-old female and you are mating for the first time with a massive bull in must who's probably in excess of 35, 40 years old. A lot of weight to bear. And they can get very aggressive when they don't get what they want. I think he's looking for water with that particular branch he's pulled off. Of all of the greenery, he's choosing to eat the bark and the inside. Look how he's stripping it. So he's needing a bit more roughage in his diet, possibly, a bit more fiber. Pulling it in like a ribbon. Nathan is quite impressive. He made that disappear very quickly. I love the noises when he flaps his ears and breathes out his trunk. We're getting the odd rumble as well. He's getting a bit camera shy. Alright, we'll see if we can get another view for you with him eating that branch he's broken off. I'm going to try and move a little bit forward. Hopefully Wendy holds herself together long enough. Goodness gracious, boy, you're in quite the thicket there. Do you want to go back to the other gap? How's the control from here? Flash. Goodness. He's being very quiet for an elephant bull. Trying to break all the smaller branches off. This branch is full of thorns as well, bear in mind he's handling it with care. Hello, boy. I'm almost waiting for him to throw something at us. My luck with elephants recently will get a whole lot of snot to the face, like John T was saying yesterday. But lovely to spend time with the big boy. He's very calm at the moment for a bull in must.
Chico Training Pridlands, we made our way to a few of the little dams this morning to see if we can locate any other animals there. So far, it's been a little bit quiet on the animal side, but we did manage to locate a grey heron, which is on the opposite side of the pond. I just love watching them. They're so patient when it comes to standing perfectly still and waiting for fish to be in striking distance. In this case, most likely what he is looking for at the moment is platanas, which is one of the frog species. Over the last few weeks, I haven't noticed any fish being taken by this grey heron or the pied kingfisher that used to be here. Every time that they did manage to catch something, it was always a frog. We see that the herons also, depending on their size, go for a number of different things in terms of prey. And one of the interesting things that I've even seen some of the heron species do, such as the black-headed heron that looks very similar to the grey-headed heron, is going for nestling birds that was in a net and ate those. There's also even records of them going for mice. So when it does come to these two very similar looking herons, they're actually fairly easy to separate in the field. We firstly find that grey herons tend to always associate with water. However, when it comes to black-headed heron, they tend to associate with grasslands away from water. But both species do breed close by to water, and directly over water. So therefore it's important to just take note of a few basic key features which you can use to separate them. When it comes to black-headed heron, it's got an all-black head, not a white central middle path. And then unlike the grey heron that's got a yellow eye, it's got a dark eye color, eye color. And then lastly, we'll also notice that the underwing color of these two differ, where the grey heron has got an all-grey underwing, and that the black-headed heron has got a black and white underpart to wing. When it comes to some of the smaller herons, you'll also notice quite often actively feeding. And some of their strategies is generally to chase down prey as well as to disturb it with the feet. Good morning, Andy, and welcome to the show. Quite often that fish actually have the eggs get stuck onto the feathers of a number of different water birds, and then it ends up in that areas. We also find in the case of catfish that they will often move large distances over land as well. I've quite often seen that directly after that it has rained, and when they start moving over land. Well, it seems if John T's got something there, let's go and see what he's up to.
Look at this gentleman that we've just bumped into, lying in this mud wallow. This is one that Pogs and I would not be getting into. We're just chatting about that boss of his. Look how deep it is. Or thick, probably the right word. Not very wide spread on these horns. At that neck, it is a heck of a beast. I always say it's very hard to look intelligent when you're chewing cud like that. Oh, you heard me. Like, what did you say to me? But what a great place, for these large ruminants to come and lie down in this mud wallow. Much cooler. And then just relax there. Chew the cud. And this time of the year when it's so thick like this is the exact type of animal that a lot of you want to be quite wary of bumping into if you're on foot. And if you startled him, good chance he might react quite aggressively. It does look like a wig, hey Kelly? Like what is it? An old admiral, old judge, and they had to wear those ridiculous wigs. You'd love to know how many encounters this old man has had with lions over the years. But his neck is huge. When he flicks his tail there, it almost looks like he's missing the end part of his tail. Maybe that's from an old altercation with some lions. It's quite surprising that there's no oxpeckers on him either.
I am bumbling back from Chitwa on Gowrie, Maine, and I'm headed towards Twin Dams area. And it certainly looks like we have got quite a storm coming, everybody. It's quite strange. We've got a bit of blue sky above us, but all the way around us on the horizon is just this very intense dark blue cloud cover coming in. and I'm a little scared of the rain we're about to get. So it did predict it was going to start raining very likely at about 7, which it did. It started spitting. But from around 10 a.m. this morning, we're expecting a massive downpour. And we're going to get probably over 5 mils this afternoon. That's what it says. So we'll see how that goes. But it's supposed to keep raining right the way through to Monday, I believe, Monday morning. It certainly looks like it, and this is much more what we're used to, having very, very hot days, and then having some cloud cover build up, and then decent rain for a bit. I went and had a look where my Reeps was yesterday. No sign of him today, so he has moved off. But I also had a look at the hyena den earlier on our way down towards Twin Dams early this morning. And that was also inactive. There were no hyenas at home. Very possibly due to the presence of the Avoca males last night. So, together, very interesting morning. I'm definitely thinking that hippo calf it's made my day. It's made my month. But I feel like I keep saying that every day. Something new has made my day, but that is my first ever half birth. First time seeing a hippo in that condition. Absolutely brilliant.
And we are still here with the buffalo that has not moved at all. We're just enjoying being in his space. It'd be interesting if there were some more. Sometimes you find these groups of buffalo bulls. They don't necessarily all go lie down together, so there is potential that there could be others in the grass around here. Yeah, but it would be good to see that age-old battle. Yeah, Earth Lover is tough. Looking at the tips of his horns, you can see they're quite worn. You can see into his mouth, his teeth also a little bit worn. I mean, in captivity, a buffalo would quite easily reach 20, 25 years. But out here, I don't know, he's probably not much more than 15 years old. If yeah, I don't know, it's quite tricky. What do you reckon, Gert?
Age. 9,
Do you think 9?
9, 10, no, maybe more.
It is tough to age them because they get so gnarled. We have to get a vet in here and then go look at their teeth. That's kind of the most accurate way to age them. But that is something that I haven't seen while I've been here at WildEarth. But it would be so epic to imagine watching a lion-buffalo interaction live. It's an incredible thing to see. Yeah, Susan, that's a good question. I mean, buffaloes have got a heck of a reputation for being... The car might rock, I'm just moving. They've got a heck of a reputation. Yeah, he's looking at me now because I moved. But for being grumpy and aggressive. A lot of those stories are from people, you know, the guys would hunt them. And in particular, if they're wounded, they can be very, very aggressive. And they'll actually, rather than running away, they'll try and find whatever it is that's causing them pain and try and take that out. So there's a lot of hunters who've been tossed into bushes or trampled in the pursuit of their sport. But typically what I've found when I've been walking with buffalo, obviously I've mostly walked in reserves where they're not being hunted, so obviously their attitude will be slightly different. But if you sort of respect their space, they respond in like. But yeah, I think buffalo are one of the animals that if you give them a fright, they might tip towards attack rather than run away faster than other animals would. But I've been fortunate to not have anything too hectic happen with buffalo. A couple of heart-raising moments, but never anything escalating more than that. Yeah, he's having a very calm morning here in this overcast weather. And so from him, the calm Buffalo Bull, Tess, JP and myself, thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you this afternoon.